Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Basement Wargamers Grudgecast. I am your host with the most, the one and only drunk white dwarf that is also balding, Jared Cannonball Nyman. Thank you for joining us. With us today, we have our own Espicia meatball, Carl Vela.
Hey.
We have the devourer of souls himself, King Hefe, Jeff West. We have the Christopheles Mephisto. Women want to be him. Men love him.
Oh my god.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Say hi, Murphy.
Hello.
And finally, from the darkest of depths, the hallowest of graves, he returns once again victorious. The Chaos Jesus, Sam Lucidi.
Hello.
Well,
I just gotta say, man, that was an all-star intro, dude. I don't think you can top that.
That's gonna be tough to beat later.
Thank you. So, guys, welcome. We have a pretty full schedule and a whole bunch of different things happening over the past month or so. We'll get into probably the most we'll probably hit a lot into will be Adepticon with Sam. So before we jump into that, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everything that had happened. We had run a small Age of Sigmar tournament, 1,000 points a person, only about 6 people, at Gamers Heaven in Phoenixville 2 weeks ago, I think. And our own Basement Wargamers and Gamers Heaven alumni Panda took first place with Daughters of Cain. I fucking hate his list. He's a piece of shit. I love you, Panda. But he was the only one I lost to. The list is ridiculously disgusting. Daughters of Cain are super strong right now. Great army. Really interesting. Very fast. Very deadly. Highly anticipated. Everyone should play them at least once just to see how deadly. I played my asshole Kharadron Overlords with all their shooting power. Let's see, who else did we have? We had Zachary, Guy, Shelley playing Stormcast Eternals, and he was mainly playing all the Vanguard units, the new like Falconeer dudes with the crossbows and the super speedy movement and the Griffhound dudes. We also had Bill West playing his Blades of Corn, possibly for the last time from the sounds of it. We also had...
They're retired.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're all eaten by spiders.
Yes, that's what I hear. He's getting into the arachnids. And then we also had Don Clark was playing Fire Slayers, and Sajil was playing his Beastmen's. So it went over well overall. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, Panda took first. I ended up taking second with my Kharadron Overlords. And Don took third with his Fire Slayers. So it was a good time. It's a good opener to try and get more people into play Age of Sigmar. I highly suggest it. It's fun. And yeah, there's my little spiel. Fight-wise, it was interesting. There's a lot of small list comparisons. The games went pretty quick, too, for the most part. So it was a good time. Highly suggested next time we have another AOS tournament. I want to see you guys out.
Well, we have another one coming up, don't we?
Yeah, we have another one coming up in April, along with a 40K tournament, I think, the day prior. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, I look forward to joining it. I've got a lot of my army built up, and I'm ready to dip my toes into the Age of Sigmar tournament scene to see if I'm just as bad at that I am at 40K.
I think you'll be fine, Murphy. Lizardmen are nasty. That being said, talking of the tournament scene, let's get to our meat and potatoes. Adepticon just happened. What was it, over the weekend? Over the past weekend?
Yes. The past week. It was starting on Thursday, and then it ended Sunday.
Nice.
Thursday and Friday was the championship. Saturday and Sunday was the team tournament. There was a lot of other stuff going on. All through that, I know there was doubles on Friday. There was the friendly and the gentleman's and all these other different things that were going on. Lots of different games.
Cool. So who ended up taking home the gold?
So Matt Root ended up being number one. Took it from Nick Nanavati. It's running listen, I think the crux of it was 7 Flyrants versus Nick's.
That's pretty friggin' nasty.
Yep, that's what I've heard, and that's pretty rough.
From looking at the just walking around the event during the singles, I'm pretty sure there were more flying Hive Tyrants present than people. That's an exaggeration, but only slightly. There were on the row of tables I was on alone, there was 40 or 50 of them.
Ugh. Why? I get that they're strong, but
I heard they came in pretty strong.
Preposterously good.
Well, and Sam, maybe you can help me out with this, because I've come up against plenty of Flyrants in the Tyranid list that I've played, and they seem fine, but I struggle to understand how 7 of them makes up for all the other things you really, or all the things you really need an army to do at that level of competition, right? Because you come against the Twin Devourers and they never have enough AP to drop anything that matters, and then you come against the dudes in close combat, and like a lot of them only have 4 attacks, and so like I'm struggling to understand how those lists are performing so well. Do you have any insight to like why there was such a prevalence of those types of Flyrant lists?
So I don't have a ton of insight, but what I can say is they do typically have a lot of tools, like in the form of mucolids and maul locks and things like that for holding onto objectives, and then a lot like the Plague Burst Crawler, like the 10 Plague Burst Crawler list and things like that. There's kind of an efficiency bonus when you keep repeating certain units, like Flyrants. 1 or 2 Flyrants is very easily dealt with. 7, 8, or 9 of them is really taxing on as far as the tools you have available to kill them, because they're tough. 12 wounds and a 4-up invuln save is really tough to get through. Like even a big unit of Yanari Reapers firing twice doesn't kill one. And the big thing that they're really good against is Eldar, because the AP isn't really relevant versus most of their infantry. And they have a lot of tools that let them, deny psychic powers and different things like that. So they're just they're tough and kind of overwhelming to deal with. Beyond that, I'm not really sure the details of how the list plays. There's other stuff out there that it does really well against, like Poxwalkers and like bulk cultists and stuff like that.
It makes a lot of sense.
And those were kind of the meta. So it's almost like an anti-meta meta, which creates a new meta, right?
I mean, in a sense, it's a reaction to Eldar. Like the Flyrants, I think it was mostly the Brits that saw Flyrants as being as powerful as they are well before the U.S. did. I know, I'm sure it was Matt Robertson from Wales was in on that, and a couple other guys over there really kind of figured that out, and then figured out how it could be played against Eldar. Where for a while, the guys in the U.S. didn't see how it performed against Eldar at all. So yeah, it's a response to that. And right now, it's really dominant. So obviously, there are things that can counter it. Plenty of people lost games with their Flyrants, but the sort of things that were expected to be dominant, the NIDs do really well against.
Nice. Now, I have a theory, and Sam, you can tell me if I'm complete bullshit in this, because you'll have the most experience probably out of all of us. Also, Carl, I know you have a lot of tournament experience as well. So tell me if I'm complete batshit crazy bullshit on this. But I have a basis theory that I was kind of thinking about the other day. And it feels almost like, just from scrounging over tons of different lists and some of the more successful lists, I feel like you take a unit or a thing, and the sweet spots from what I'm looking at is a power unit that is efficient between 160 and 180 points, and you take as many of that fucking thing as humanly possible, and then a bunch of other shit to try and get in the way. And that seems to be good.
So, I mean, there are lists that can work that way. They typically are not going to go all the way, because ultimately what it comes down to is those kinds of lists are going to be missing tools. And typically whatever unit that it is you find to spam, it's going to have a gap that you're not able to readily fill.
Okay.
But you can definitely bully your way through the middle tables with a list like that. There's just on the basis that most lists won't have necessarily a counter to that many of whatever that thing is. Not everything is suitable to be spammed like that. But I will say that 160 to 180 is like relatively sweet spot for unit price. I don't like to have anything in my army that's more expensive than that. And then, as a rule, that can get you through at least a few games in an event. But I prefer a more rounded set of tools.
Agreed.
Well,
I was just thinking, like, with the Plague Burster and then the Tyranid, Hive Tyrant, and then, I mean, what were some of the other big name spammable things?
Dark
Even like the
Reapers.
Hellhound to a degree. Dark Reapers.
Well, people are really scared of the shield captains on jet bikes too when the Custodes codex drop. But to Sam's point, I think so much of it has to do with the efficiency of the supporting units, right? Because Custodes, it might have more difficulty filling like some of those kind of support roles like the Muclids and the Molochs are doing in these mid lists that might make them not viable in a hyper competitive setting as like one of the spam lists. Although I do think one of those Custodes list did break the top 8 or something like that, I think, at Adepticon. But I think it's like, every codex, most codexes have like one all-star unit, right? Like Demon Princes and whatever you want to say. And they're probably not even the best example. But I think that so much of it is tied up in with not a lot of points can you make that spam list really viable based on all the synergies and all the kind of cheap flexibility you'll get from the supplementary units in that codex is whether or not that's actually going to be a viable list.
Yeah. Yep. Flyrants in particular are just good at it because they do everything. They're tough. They fly. They shoot. They fight. They have an invuln. Like they have stratagems that work on top of all of that very well because most of the mid stratagems are fairly open. So they just happen to do a lot of things really well. So they're very much in the middle of that sweet spot. But I think generally speaking, a balanced list is going to do better.
So what do you think's the counter to that, to something like that, where like someone goes up against batshit crazy tons of that spammable 170 point, just basic balance? Like what's your thoughts on like a balanced list? Like what are some of the key points you think that like call to a balanced list?
So you need to be able to deal with a lot of different situations, not just in your army, but on the table. So you need to be able to have units that are mobile, able to deal with situations like being caught in combat. So I like to have a little bit of stuff that can fly. I like to have some chaff units that can screen, and then it can alternatively hang back and hold objectives because they can be kind of inconvenient to remove if you have other fast-moving threats or difficult to remove threats. So like for example, my army has a pair of Plagueverse crawlers, 3 drones, some cultists, and then I've got some dreadnoughts. And what's going on there, right, is I move up my crawlers and my drones, and the drones kind of screen, and the dreads hang out in the back with the epoxies. And the idea with that is I've got a lot of different places I can be on the board. I can move quick. The units support each other in the sense that like the drones they can't get caught in combat because they fly. So they can protect the crawlers, which can't fly. And when you have a list that operates like that, people, the dreadnoughts are relatively fragile, but they are a lot of my shooting because they've got las cannons and crack missiles. And the fact of the matter is most people can't afford to pick on them or pick on the cultists that really they need to remove by late game because they have the more pressing issue of the drones that are up front. Those drones and crawlers are really tough to kill without the full weight of their army trying to lay into them. And if they give up their opportunity early to kill them in favor of killing stuff in my backfield, which if that's assuming they can even reach it, they might give up their chances of ever killing those units. And so something like those tyrants, I honestly don't know how my army does against that. I think I do okay because those all those bugs. Yes, it's a lot of shooting, 24 shots apiece, hitting on 3s, but moving most of my army on 5s, and with I don't think any AP to speak of. A lot of that stuff just bounces off. Now, because proxies and lots of cultists and all that sort of stuff. Lots of infantry is really common, and I didn't make it into top 16. Nobody playing NIDS had to deal with that. So, yeah, I have a feeling that would have been a reasonable counter, though. And I'm sure that that's the kind of stuff that people running all those NIDS ran into, other than people just not understanding how the list works and, losing that way.
How did you end up placing, Sam, you and your team, and what were like some lists you came up against that gave you a really hard time or a really good game?
So in the championship, I went 2-1-1. I opened up with a draw. I got seized on by a guard player, which is not such a big deal. Typically, I play against a lot of guard, and things went horribly pear-shaped from a dice perspective. I don't like to blame dice for things, but for instance, I had my Foul Blight Spawns attack a pair of them attack a Baneblade that he had that he pushed right up into the middle of the table, well into range of my Blight Spawns on the first turn. Rolled something like 11 wounds against it, so that's 11 6-ups he needs to make versus 3 damage apiece. That should basically vaporize the tank. And he rolled 9 of 11 6-ups. And then a subsequent turn, I fired like 6 las cannons into a Lehman Russ, and the same exact thing happened again. So several turns, the just freak dice prevented me from making headway. So that turned out to be a draw. I held my own and just couldn't do anything to him, just due to absolutely freak circumstances.
Yeah, that is crazy, dude.
Played another Death Guard player. And 40'd that. Played against 4 Storm Surges with backup, which was just kind of a goofy gimmick list, really. And I had a great time with my opponent, but I had no issue with that. And then I played Mike Taylor round 4, and Mike is a great player. He's also on Beast Coast with me, and he was running Catachans with support characters, some mortars, sentinels and stuff. Basically all the brigade fixins. And then 3 shield captains. So we had a really tight game, a lot of really careful maneuvering as we figured out how to engage each other's armies. And unfortunately, the way things turned out, so we ran out of time turn 4, and Mike had bottom. And at the position that we were at, he had it. And I had been playing up to that point thinking we were going to get our full complement of turns. And when the game ended, he had 2 wounded shield captains, about a handful of infantry, and some mortars, I think, in a corner, and then a little bit of Sangard off to the side, but not much. And I had the vast bulk of my army left. So 2 more turns, not even 2 more turns, but another turn, and I think I probably had him. We both were really interested to see where things would have gone if we played it out. But due to that loss, I missed out on top 16. But I'm still really happy with my performance, and that game was. I know that if it went a little longer, it was all mine. So I can feel good about that. And teams were great. I got to play with some great guys. We played versus all kinds of stuff. Played versus 2 different all NID teams, which was a lot of fun. We played against again teammates of mine on Beast Coast that were running Admech and Guard, which they really put the hurt on us. My team was playing demons. We were playing a list from each god. And then Slaanesh, since their demons are kind of lame, we took Slaanesh Chaos Space Marines. The team tournament is a really great time. People go really all out, building their displays and coming up with their theme and backstory and painting and converting stuff. And it's a great time to just roll dice and drink and just enjoy the spirit of the hobby.
Nice. It sounds like a lot of fun. I would like to go maybe next year if I can save up for it, because I know we had talked about it before. I didn't have enough time to get stuff together. And I know some of you guys might have been in the same circumstance, but it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to some events coming up as well that might be similar. I'm hoping, knock on wood, and if any of the Burks guys hear this, you in particular, Mike B. and Cone, I'm hoping they can do another Mega Team battle like was it 2 years ago, Sam?
Oh, the
It was me,
four-player.
Don,
2
and
years
Nick?
ago.
The 4-person
Yeah.
team matches?
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I'm still super bitter I missed that.
It was a lot of fun, and I'd love to do something like that again. And is that similar to how the teams were at Adepticon?
Yeah, very similar. And I think, by the way, that the guys out in, I think it's the Hawk guys, are running an event like that in a few months.
Nice.
So we'll have to keep our eyes out.
Absolutely. I would be definitely interested in that, as I'm sure many others. So, going along with this, any other stuff from the tournament, too, before I jump around too terribly much? Anything else you'd notice? Any neat shit, cool conversions, interesting, quirky armies, anything like that?
Well, I definitely want to give a shout out to the guys that I rode out with, Werner Bourne and Brad Nichols. Werner, in particular, spent a huge amount of time converting this really awesome dark mech army, where he took Adeptus Mechanicus units and the whole Barney bag full of chaos bits, and went completely nuts and custom converted everything, and then took the Adeptus Mechanicus Codex and rewrote it to have appropriately heretical names for everything, and jazzed it all up. And Brad built this awesome display board for it all. It was really, really, really exciting. I'm really excited to see how they continue to work on that army.
Very cool. Very cool. That'll be interesting to see. Do you know if there's any pictures or anything posted up that we could maybe send people to see?
I'm sure that there will be soon. Once kind of we're outside of the aftermath of Adepticon, stuff will get posted. But
for our listeners, keep your eye on the Basement Wargamers Facebook page. We'll see if we can send some links to anything as we get them. So great. So going more in with the tournament stuff, then questions involved in tournament and a tactical piece to it, because tournament is tactics. So here's my question to you tournament-minded guys out there to kind of discuss over at least. So in seeing some of these lists and hearing some of these items, a lot of times many people in tournaments may come across an impasse. So you see the other side of the table, you see the two burst crawler things. You see, the Hive Tyrants, the big monster guys, and then you see the weedy guys. Do you go for let's talk about shot priority, because it's something that I think is often missed, and especially many new gamers going into that might want to test the waters in the tournament scene. I feel like target priority is something that's both easily missed and very important. What do you go for? Do you go for the stuff that's going to cap objectives, or do you try and take out the big stuff first?
I think so much of that is tied up in playing a lot of different armies and knowing very well what they're capable of. So, for example, if I went against like a Flyrant list or a spam list of a bunch of shield captains, I have a pretty good sense of what kind of damage they can do to my army depending on what list that I'm bringing. So, I don't think there's any easy formula for that, right? It's like what you focus fire on, and I think that, unless you're confident you're going to table your opponent, it's going to be a risky choice either way. But if I were to boil it down to a binary choice, it's can I survive and win a tactical game if I ignore those big shiny targets that I really would like to take down but probably aren't critical? And on the same side of that, do I have the firepower, and am I able to take down enough of his kind of tactical flex or his OBSEC units in order to win a strategic game? I think so much of it is tied up in knowing the damage output of your opponent's army to know what you'll be able to survive and outwit, and then also, to know how much flexibility they have tactically, how fast they can get where they need to be. I mean, so much, and again, a lot of it's tied up in mission style, right? So I don't know, man. I think at a certain point, you're not able to do all that math in your head. It's kind of like an instinctual choice based on what you know about that army and your experience of how easily they're able to chew through what you've got.
Okay. Any other thoughts, guys?
I think Carl's pretty much on it. I mean, I would say that for me, it's what I look at is what do I need to kill in order to win. Very similarly, for instance, I'll give you the example of Mike Taylor's army, round 4. He's got lots of Catachan infantry. Individually, weak, but together with their characters and buffs, really powerful in close combat. And then he's got his shield captains, which are a couple individual guys that are really tough to kill, like disproportionately tough to kill, and then moderately good in close combat. And then some stuff in his backfield. Well, stuff in his backfield, at least some of it is on an objective. So I realize I can't. That's important for me to kill, but I can't get to it. So I'm not going to worry about that for now. Next, there's the shield captains, which are probably the thing most able to mess up my particular army. And they're big, obvious targets, and it's important to get to them and find a way to get rid of them. But what I have really immediately that I need to deal with is something like 60 Catachan infantry that if I don't get rid of early in the game, they're going to be all over the table. They're going to be all in and around my units. They're going to be all over objectives. And I might not have the tools late in the game to kill them because most of my flamers and anti-infantry is tied up in tanks and drones that, although it's not really easy for him to kill, they're the kinds of things he wants to kill and the things he has tools to kill with his Custodes captains. On the other hand, if I kill all of his Catachan infantry really fast, then the only things he's really got for scoring are Custodes captains. And if I get to that point, pretty much as long as I have more units than he does at the end, even if I didn't kill those captains, I'm in better shape because I can still hold objectives. Similarly, like if somebody's got a shadow sword hammering on me all game, it's a big problem. It's killing stuff. But it can only really kill one or two things a turn. And that thing can live all the way to the end of the game as long as I still have at least a unit that can hold objectives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think you got to recognize the hard counters to your list on the table, right? Like, because I play a lot of obliterators, and if I'm jumping on the table and I see someone's got flat 3 damage guns with decent AP, I know that I'm willing to take a strategic loss early in the game to drop those guns turn 1, turn 2 to keep my key damage dealers safe because I can recognize really quickly what the hard counters are to the important stuff, the linchpins in my list that I need to kind of survive and perform late game.
That, and I think that it depends on the army too. Like if you're playing Tyranids, I think there's a certain advantage of going after the bigger units than there would be against like Imp-Guard, like Jared or like Sam was saying. Whereas if you take them out, you run like a psychic heavy lift, suddenly you don't have to worry as much about Shadow of the Warp or Synapse, and there's like a distinct advantage to it.
Good point.
Man. It's good.
Good point. So, with the events of Adepticon, it looks like GW is rethinking some of their expected FAQs, which means it's getting pushed back slightly. So what do you think are going to be the big winners and losers in terms of the FAQ? Obviously, the big one that we're seeing probably is something having to do with HQ choices. The easy go at that is doing away with the command attachment for match play. But what else do you guys think? What are some possibilities?
You know what? If
Nothing?
I could really say, I really hope at some point they give maybe more fun or fluffy missions for like the open plays and for the like narrative type stuff. I think currently, I just feel that if you're going to play narrative or the open plays, it's just like, well, I guess you can just do whatever you want with your army. But I feel like there could be something really great to do with like the objectives or the missions. And as long as it's not anything like the Fate of Connor, I think that's a good thing.
In case you haven't seen Murph, there's a whole bunch more narrative missions in Chapter Approved.
No, I haven't. I still haven't picked that book up.
There is quite a bit. I would highly suggest taking a look at it. Any other stuff you're thinking might get adjusted in the FAQ?
I think we're kind of in virgin territory here, right? Because like we haven't had a living rule set for 40K, or quote unquote living rule set for 40K. I mean, certainly not since my time in the hobby, and I don't know if ever. So like, I think everyone's really wary that they're going to be too like off the cuff reactionary to like things like Dark Reapers and Flyrants. I hope that they're not, because I think this is all kind of still developing into people understanding how to play in 8th edition competitively. So we'll see, man. I mean, the things that I wish they address are larger concerns, like rulebook pages, like terrain and maybe character rule and things like that, which I obviously are not going to be in something like a major FAQ. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to be hopefully optimistic and not trying to make any presumptions, but we'll see.
What's the possibility they rearrange or create new detachments?
Hopefully low.
I don't know about creating new ones.
I would just like to
Reformed
see.
detachments?
I would just like to see soup penalized, right? Like I would like to see there be some detriment to taking like a less thematic army, right? That's my big hope for the FAQ, but that's probably something that would be addressed in chapter approved, if even.
That's fair. That's fair. Cool. So let's take a look at some of our upcoming releases. I know Dark Eldar, the Drew Carey, have just been announced with more information, along with our wonderful Deep One Sea Elves. I know, Murphy, you're probably super excited for the Dark Eldar as well as your upcoming Necron releases.
Oh,
And we've got
yes.
Forgebane coming out too. So, I mean, give us your boner story.
No, I'm probably just going to buy the Forgebane box myself, and I'm not splitting it because everything is going to get used in some facet. I think for the Necrons, and I was petitioning this for a long time, how angry I was that how dare you give me dynasties and then you have zero follow-up on that. Like, all dynasties are exactly the same, so seeing some of the dynasty love is going to be really, really awesome. I'm glad to see a lot of the point reductions, because whenever I take a Necron list, I always look at my opponent's field and I'm like, oh, well, what can that do? They're like, oh, well, I have this like leader that can give orders to give this to that, and then these guys can do this and that if I do this. And I'm like, my guys can move up and then shoot you. If you shoot me, sometimes they come back, unless you kill them all and then nothing happens. So I don't know. I'm really, really happy to see like a lot of the changes for them. I think there is a staggeringly high level of the stratagems, and I think now that we've seen a few of the codexes really come out, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed, but a lot of the stratagems and the abilities sort of seem to be melding together. I really don't know how to take that, but I'm just going to be glad to see the Necrons kind of come back into a competitive scene. So across the board, I'm happy. I'm just happy to see the Necrons get some love again. I love to play them, and I'm hoping that with this codex, it actually also allows me to take some of the less loved units. Like, for a long time, there's no reason to ever play Death Marks. There's never really a reason to play a Catan, except the Deceiver if you want to use the old Necron switch 'em up. But like, even the Annihilation Barge, like, it was good. It was good, then it was bad, then it was good again, and I'm just hoping to see it land somewhere safe where I can have fun with it and not be super penalized for it. So that's really awesome. I'm just really, really excited for a lot of the Necron changes. Some of the stratagems, by the way, or some of the stratagems are gross. I think the Destroyer cults are gonna come back and probably ruin a lot of people's fun by shooting at like 24 inches, 3 wounds a shot, and with an extra -1 on the AP. That's gonna be, it's gonna be gross.
So,
Absolutely.
What dynasty do you like?
So, I mean, if we really want to go into it, it's the Tobarok, which they have the little blue Gauss flares. I wish I was a better hobbyist to let that happen, but they actually use radiation in their Gauss weapons and particle-destroying technology. But I really plan on, the way I painted my guys was a offshoot of the Sawtech dynasty. So I'm excited. I've got an entirely painted Saltec Dynasty Necron list, and I plan to use that probably pretty frequently.
Yeah,
Lots of Jedi.
Mephit seems to be the big winner with the bonus rend at half range.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty good.
Super good. I also
Yeah,
like
that
the
should be pretty
one that lets you move and fire your any of your weapons like assault weapons. That seems like super good.
That's going to be pretty good. I'm
Yeah,
like
should be nasty.
super excited to see the idea that you can use the Canoptic spider, the swarms of scarabs, and you can just blow them up for mortal wounds. I think that's a really cool ability. I think it's not super strong, but I think it's fluffy. And for anybody who buys those boxes of Necron Warriors, you can finally use those scarabs you got for free.
Very nice. Very nice. We always like free stuff. So,
Yeah,
we have
so there's that, and then with the
And then-
Drukhari, man, I'm
yeah, the
super
Drew
excited.
Carries. Super excited for them.
Yeah, you know what? To be the first and foremost thing is I can finally play Dark Eldar without Eldar.
Yeah, you haven't been able to do that for a little while.
Dude, it's so frustrating to be like, okay, here's my Dark Eldar list that has half Eldar in the list, and I'm like, this is so unsatisfying. It hurts.
I mean, at that point,
And
it's just the
from what I'm
Inari.
hearing, they're having some kind of weird bonus patrol detachment rules where if you take additional patrol detachments, you can get like additional command points or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems.
I don't
pretty
know
cool.
how that's going to work out. I was doing some of the math on that, and that didn't seem to check out too heavily. And now, once again, I have no idea what some of the other Dark Eldar stuff is going to be. But, currently, Succubi, I don't know how they're going to... Or, I'm sorry. Witches and Racks, I don't know how you're going to take so many of them and be useful. Maybe with the Warriors? Cavalite Warriors always seem like a good choice. But I want Racks. I want Racks to be good. And I want lots of them.
Yeah, I wish they weren't like shit resin models though.
Yes. I think most of my Racks have exploded just under normal carrying case conditions. They just seem to explode when I'm not looking at them, then I glue them again.
It's that Dark Eldar trickery.
Ah, bastards.
Yeah,
Yeah, weren't you thinking about Sea Elves? What is it? I the Deep Ones?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
deep ones. I don't know too much about them so far. They look pretty cool. Honestly, I was hoping they were gonna look a little more like fishy or like Cthulhu-y,
Mm-hmm.
and a little less like Atlantean. But
So fluff nerd alert. I don't know if you guys saw. They revealed some of the lore behind them. Apparently, Teclis is the one that created them, and he fucked up.
I saw that. And didn't he did they leave him or did he leave them?
I think he left them because he was like ashamed of creating them or something along those lines.
Whoa, what is that?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
Well,
sweep this under
apparently,
the
'cause
ocean.
Some of them don't even have eyes.
Ooh, that's cool. I hate painting eyes.
Exactly. It's just like molded in. But yeah, there's some interesting fluff that was just released, I think, on the Warhammer community site over the past day or two, going into like how they were created and the background behind them. So
But
definitely check it out. See
I'm
some
definitely
spoilers.
interested in them. The turtles, the giant ship turtles, look pretty awesome. I kind of want to get a
See,
couple.
I have to disagree with you there.
Dude, but you can get a couple and you can
I think-
paint their face armor and they can be like the Ninja Turtles. How could you not want that?
See, I think the flying sea turtles look fucking dumb.
God.
And then Jared, Shark Cavalry.
I mean, Shark Cavalry's cool. I can't deny that. But flying sea turtles, man, come on.
I'm kind of
So-
interested to see how they explain the whole like flying sea life thing.
Yes, that's the thing. I love the look of the things, but it's like I can't help but feel like looking at all these eels slithering through the air is going to look weird as shit next to a land army, right? Like I love the aesthetic, but it's like you need to imagine water around them to make it sell for me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Or my Caradric,
well,
like, are
so-
they flying in the skies against my dwarves? Like, how's that working?
I'm thinking
Right.
they're going to release like an official Games Workshop fish tank, and you're just gonna have to like waterproof all your models and play in there.
I mean, maybe they'll be 40K compliant and they'll bring back the amphibious rule for the Chimera.
They could just sell glasses that make it look like things are underwater, so you just give a pair to your opponent before you play the game.
Oh, sick!
the
Like
old
3D
beer-
glasses.
That'd be
old
perfect.
You mean beer goggles, Carl? I think
Pretty
that's
much, yeah.
exactly what you're
It's
talking about.
also known as 8 beers.
They try and grab their model and it's like 6 inches to the left.
Yes. So, with that, leads us into our next topic. We had our AOS ladder campaign so far. Currently, Aaron Feather is our current holding champion. He beat his brother Sean, I believe, a week or two ago to take the reigning title. So currently, he is holding strong. And we are going to wait and see who is going to challenge him to the throne. So it's kind of neat to see with this campaign. The championship belt is rotating out pretty frequently. So it'll be neat to see who's in it next week or the week after and who ends up with it at the end. But in other news, the Call of Behemoth campaign has finally wrapped up. Carl, Murphy, tell us your thoughts, ending thoughts, what you want to do for next time, and go.
Well,
Go for it, Carl. I'll let you speak your piece first.
sure. What I'll do is I'll just recap kind of the story arc and how it ended, and hopefully what's going to shape up into being part 2 of the story of Behemoth. So the reveal during the APOC game, which I'm very sorry I had to dodge out on for some family stuff, but very grateful. Just got to give a quick shout out to Murphy and Sean for running what I heard was an awesome event, and that table, dude, looked incredible. Seeing that many points of fully painted, beautiful models on a table is like the dream come true for a narrative campaign. So props to all you guys who brought your gorgeous looking stuff out there and played an awesome game. I heard it was a great time and was sad I couldn't be there. But
It was fantastic.
yeah, good. Well, hopefully you can recap the game for us, Murphy. But as far as fluff goes, the big reveal at the start of the game was that Behemoth, as we've known it, is not actually a planet, but rather a prison for some sort of twisted galactic entity that was created by the old ones way, way, way back before the Imperium of Man in order to disguise and trap it and keep it from consuming the universe. So the whole idea was when you drop down on this planet and things start going crazy and these ion storms and tremors start shaking the planet, it was the antibody system of this, this ancient prison that was trying to shake all of these invaders off of it to keep the entity contained. It failed to do that. They siphoned all of the living life force of the planet, which was known as the mana, which was the resource that all the generals were greedily fighting over, not realizing that they were weakening the prison of this horrid entity. And then so the planet broke. Everyone tried to GTFO, and now, after that APOC game, we have some escaping warlords and some massive planet-sized entity flying through the galaxy, consuming stars and radiation and growing stronger. And so that will be the subject of Chapter 2 of the story of Behemoth.
Excellent. Excellent.
So the planet had Galactus in it?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, awesome.
Deus Ex Galacticus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Murphy, what about you?
So, I mean, yeah, that was the story. I'm very happy to announce that in the end, by our calculations, Inquisitor Blackwell is the winner for the Call of Behemoth. We found out, Jared, that you were top-tier warlord, and you won the campaign. So we know that Inquisitor Blackwell is highest of the warlords, and he is the one to take the most responsibility for the cataclysm that's happening. But I would like to highlight a smaller character that ended up being very big, which was Eric Emmerich's Commander Black Mirror, or
Broken Mirror.
Broken Mirror.
Broken Mirror. I keep calling him Black Mirror. Broken Mirror, who was very fluffy. He led the Xenos in the charges. His character may have suffered a few defeats, but his fluff, his appearance, and his general presence in the campaign really was a an awesome unifying force, story-wise as well as tactically, I felt. So I was really happy
his
to
writing
have.
was fantastic.
What's that?
His writing was fantastic. Yes.
Hmm. His stories, despite not knowing what was happening, really kind of jazzed me up as I was writing them. Um, so things that I think we're gonna learn for next time is probably a pre-planned. Carl, a little things went a little wonky as we were playing. I think removing the terrain in further APOC games is probably not going to play as much of a part. It became very difficult and bogging our time down. So I think that maybe next time we may consider dropping that. Um, aside from that, I think that maybe a different table setup would be required for the APOC game. I think we should probably maybe simplify some of the missions. Overall, I don't think we had anybody that was like, "Oh, I completely lost because of this one rule." But I think that maybe I know some people were not playing completely by the rules, but and that's fine. I just think that we'll have to give it a watered down version for part 2. But aside from that, I had one hell of a time writing for it. I hope to next time maybe even participate in it. And maybe to have some of our Chaos players come in for the next round, because that entire APOC battle, we only had Xenos versus humanity, which
Yeah,
was
dude. I gotta rally some of those Chaos players. We definitely needed a stronger showing towards the end of that. Yeah, dude, I want to echo your appreciation. Everyone who jumped in and played, not just the APOC game, but all through the campaign. Like, you know, whether they're strong writers or not used to fluff or whatever, like people were really, I think, generally speaking, putting their best foot forward and having fun, and that's the whole purpose of a narrative campaign. So, and definitely want to echo your shout out to Eric. He was an awesome dude. He honestly, Jared, he was nipping at your heels points-wise as far as taking the campaign, just because the strength of his writing, the strength of his fluff, that his gameplay style, his sportsmanship scores, everything. So real big shout out to that guy and to all the players for making it a good campaign.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Eric was actually a lot of fun to play against. I can actually say, which even adds to the narrative piece even more, which I thought was kind of neat. I ended up playing him my first round of the campaign. So it kind of sparked that rivalry. So
Nice.
I'll enjoy being able to do more with that next season. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I know there's some hinderings and some sparks and words of a possibility of an AOS campaign coming up soon. So
yes, there is.
Ooh.
It's still pretty rough draft, but we'll see. I'll be working with another BWG full member, because if you're a full member, you get to luckily be part of creating these really wonderful campaigns and tournaments and all of this wonderful extra stuff. So if you're not a full member, don't forget, you're kind of missing out a little bit of extra fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. And full membership will be coming up soon. I mean, you can be a full member at any time, but the new year of dues is going to be coming up soon. Our BWG calendar rotates in July, and full members have the opportunity to vote on the council members. Just remember that. If you have ever an inkling, other than all the other benefits our full membership does offer, and you would like to make changes to the group as a whole, or think about anything in that regard, being a full member, you have the opportunity to vote on the BWG Council. So keep that in mind, if anyone that would ever be interested in joining to be a full member. So a couple things to wrap up quick. We'll run around the horn on projects, and then I'll wrap things up with a couple of shout-outs. Who wants to start on the project piece? Let's go, Murphy. What do you got for projects?
I have an entire Lizardman army I am chewing through. I just built my Bastillodon, and next up is painting him. I just finished painting Krokgar on a Carnosaur, so he looks pretty slick right now. I have to commend GW on a lot of their modeling. I didn't even realize Krokgar literally has like little where he sits in his saddle. There's literally like a stirrup between his toes to keep him supported. I didn't see
Nice.
that until I was painting, and I was like, okay.
Carl, what you got going on?
I am going fifth gear towards getting my my new tournament list painted. The foundation of which is 20 possessed and 4 units of obliterators, and then just a shit ton of chaff, brimstones and cultists, a demon prince, and some supporting characters. It's probably my most ambitious attempt at conversions, especially the obliterators and a lot of other models in the list. So it's like been a total joy to put together and start painting so far. I'm kind of in the really tedious stage right now where I've done all the easy airbrush bases and highlighting, and now I'm just trying to crank through really annoying base layers and gilding until I can finally get to the step where I'm washing and highlighting and things start to come alive. So it's coming along well. I think I'm excited to build a custom display board for it. I definitely think it's going to be my best looking army to date once I'm able to put the finishing touches on it. So we'll see.
Exciting to see. Exciting to see. Sammy, what do you got going on?
Well, I managed to get my whole present list, my tournament list, finished in time for Adepticon. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I do want to go back and revisit my Hellbrutes that I painted, do a little bit more detailing there. But I think the next step is I have a couple more units of Plague Marines with blight launchers I want to get finished up, and I have a big unit of Terminators that's been sitting half done for months. So I got to get them all ready to go.
Awesome. Jeffy.
I just finished putting together a unit of Hellblasters for Dark Angels. And now I've noticed my Eldar need a little bit of touching up in some places. And I got to finish building a couple death units from start collecting boxes and start getting that stuff painted.
Nice. Nice. So I'm getting pulled in multiple directions right now. Right now what I'm working on, I just finished painting up my Emperor's Champion for my Black Templars. I've been working on them a lot lately, and I'm getting the icons to go onto them. But from a painting perspective, what I've been doing a lot of my focus on is my new AOS army, the Philadelphian Iron Jawns, which each player so far has been named after a current or former Philadelphia Eagle. I just finished up, actually just this evening, I finished up Hayton Smelsey, my war chanter, after Jason Kelsey. So more to come on those. And the last minor thing I'm working on, I love objective markers, and I've always wanted to make my own fun objective markers, something a little crazy. And I know, Sam, you had some great ones before that were awesome. I wanted to go a little crazy funny with it. So I'm doing what I'm calling objectively fucked markers. So each objective marker is in some way something happening, a fuck up. So I have a Terminator that has a teleport mishap that's half of him in the wall. I have one where an Eldar getting periled in the warp and a giant demon crab claws grabbing him in the dick. I have a Tau Fire Warrior that's been cut in half by a drone that was trying to protect the commander, and the Fire Warrior got cut in the middle. So, and of course, the obligatory plasma explosions. So, more to come with those once I get them actually painted up and everything. I have them built at least, but the painting is what's going to come later on. So cool! Thank you.
Awesome.
That about
crazy
does it. It'll be a lot fun once I get them all finished up and actually painted nicely. Which, if I can even do that.
I definitely want
I
to
might commission one of you guys to do it. That might be better off. But with that being said, just a couple of quick shout-outs. We have our new Basement Wargamer events coming up soon. We have a 40K and an AOS event coming up this April. We also have the Burke Spring Assault coming up in, May 19th? Which they have a new format. They have a narrative. It looks like they have a narrative fight. Our own El Presidente, Sean Feather, will be running the Age of Sigmar event at Burke Spring Assault for the first time this year. And they will also be having a 40K GT event there as well. So, and it looks like the Burks people, a lot of their tournaments go for really good causes. This one, and I just saw it on here, so I wanted to just give a quick shout out for it because I think it's a really awesome thing. In the past, they've always done 4 diamonds for pediatric cancer research for both events. Right now, they're doing the Winter Blast, which they normally have, is going to be the main focus of the pediatric cancer research. And what the proceeds for the Spring Assault is going towards is there is a person, an autistic individual, who has been having a lot of difficulty trying to get out and speak and get into society, and the only thing that seems to be able to help this person is ducks. He become really apt to ducks, and ducks have helped this person become socially, you start to get more into to socialize and everything. And it looks like the township that he is in is trying to get rid of his ducks. So a lot of these proceeds are going to go towards legal fees and trying to help the family out to make sure this kid, his name's Kobe, keep his ducks, because it's really helping him in his therapy process. So I highly advise any of you to come out and join us at Spring Assault, not just for the fun times in the games, but also for the good that it's doing for the community around. And then with that being said, we have a little bit out for the future. We have our Summer Slaughter event, which I'm going to whore out as much as humanly possible throughout every podcast, coming up in July. Major event, multi-day event in our area. Come, have fun, drink, eat, enjoy, be merry. We have an AOS tournament. We have a 40K tournament. We have all kinds of different interesting things there. It's going to be one of our first big Mega Blast things. So I highly suggest it. I think we have signups for it now. Is that right, Sam?
Yep, signups are open.
Awesome.
It's going to be a great time.
Awesome. So I hope to see all of our listeners there. Until next time, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining the basement. And we'll see you guys later.
Later on, guys.
See you, fellas.
See ya.
Later, guys.